Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to teach you how to make a Native American arrow. Now there's a lot of different ways to make an arrow. You know, every tribe was different. Every tribe done it their own way. But this is the way that I was taught, so I'm going to teach you how to do it. First thing you need is obviously a shaft. The way I make my arrows, I use this is river cane. It almost looks like bamboo. You can see where it's notched at, where it's separated, almost like bamboo. This is traditionally what we used. We used river cane. You can find river cane just about anywhere in the mountains of North Carolina. I don't know where you're at, so I can't tell you that part. This is what we traditionally use. Now you can use, I think you can use bamboo. I personally never done it. I might do another video later on about using bamboo as an arrow. So the first step is to cut down the river cane. Then the second step is to shave these knots right here, because when you shoot this arrow, you don't want it to start knocking on the bow, because this is a rough edge on here. Where it separates, it's a rough edge. So we got to shave this down real good and then straighten this thing. So check it out. Alright, so when you're shaving this down, you want the knife. It don't matter what knife you use, just don't use a serrated, just a fine edged knife. You don't want a serrated knife because it's going to scratch up your river cane. When you take the knife, you don't want to go quite like this. You don't want to go like this. You want to go like this. 90-degree angle between the knife and the river cane. If you scrape it like this, you're going to cut into the river cane. So you want to scrape it like that. And you're not scraping hard, you're scraping easy. You just want this to be smooth to the touch. Okay, now that you got this smooth like you want it, you gotta make this thing straight. Now this piece is really crooked. I don't know if y'all can see this, but this piece is very crooked. I mean, there's nothing straight about this piece of river cane. Now there's a couple different techniques you can do. What I do first, I try to just bend it by hand to try to straighten it out, and I keep my hands like this, so all the pressure isn't on one little area. Alright, so this is going to give me a problem, I can already tell. So let's move on to plan B. Alright guys, so this is my little plan B trick. I use a propane torch, and all you do, you just want to get it a little bit hot. Nothing crazy. You don't want it too hot, and you don't want it to be, you know, too scorched up because it'll look bad. But if you get it just a little bit hot. Then you can bend it however you want to. Like I said before, there's 1,000 different ways to do this. I use a scroll saw. There's some people that like to use a Dremel tool, and I'm fine with that. I've used them too, but this is just what I have at my disposal. So if you see this end piece, it's all kinds of jacked up. I typically like to cut my arrows about an inch above the notch, above this little, the chamber. But sometimes you don't have that option. If I cut it the way I want to, that arrow is going to be too short for me personally. I like hunting with my arrows, so what I'm going to cut it right off, cut this piece off right here, and straighten this piece up. I'm going to cut a slither in here for the nock. Now I'm going to cut a slither in here for the arrowhead. So it'll end up looking like something like this. Alright, now that I got that done, I like to shave this off. So it's kind of got an angle to it, something like this. I don't know if you can see that. What I use for that, and some people use a Dremel tool, some people shave it, just by sandpaper. I got a grinding wheel in here, and that's what I use. So the next thing I do, I take a little piece of 60 grit sandpaper and just lightly go in between and just sand it down. Don't have to be crazy, just a little bit of sanding. Just get the rough out, especially on the nock side. I'm gonna sand it down a little bit. Sometimes I'll even sand the whole arrow. Just so it can be smooth. I think this is gonna turn out pretty nice. This is gonna be a nice little arrow here. See how that looks? Looks a lot cleaner. Looks a lot cleaner. Look at that side. That's going to be where our arrowhead goes into. It's going to look pretty nice. Alright, let me teach you how to make the arrowhead. Now there's a couple different things that I do. Sometimes I'll use a stone arrowhead. Today we're going to use a bone arrowhead. Now a lot of people make them out of bone. Typically because it's, the bone's kind of harder to find. But I walked past a deer carcass the other day in the woods that was deteriorated, and the bones look pretty nice and good still. So so I took some of those, and I'm going to use that as my arrowhead. Okay, this is going to sound a little crazy, but I take a bone. This is a deer bone. I take the bone and I use a hammer. I just smash it. And whatever piece comes out that looks halfway decent, that's the piece I use. I use that grinder wheel for a lot of different things. I use it even for my bone, for my arrowhead. So I'll take the shard of bone and I'll mold it using the grinding wheel. Think we found our shard. Now that that's done, now we got to wrap it with sinew. It's very durable. You can find artificial sinew on Amazon, and it's relatively cheap. I think it's like $14 a big roll, and I'll teach y'all how to fletch the arrow too. Alright, so I cheat a little bit, I'm gonna be honest, and I use a little bit of super glue. This is the easiest way that I found. Like I said, this isn't traditional. Normally we would use some kind of tar from like a pine tree, but I don't have time for that. So I'm using super glue. Life is all about improvising, adapting, and overcoming. And that's a prime example right there. It doesn't mean I'm not gonna still wrap it with sinew, because while that thing is drying, we can still do that. So we're gonna wrap it. This rule of thumb. So I stretch out my hands as far as I can, and that's all you need. Take your 2 fingers and slide it up at the tip there. Just make it into a point. Now, I like to start a little bit below the arrowhead, and I'll just do a regular square knot. I'll do a regular square knot, and the end piece right there, wrap it around, I slide it up. Alright, then you just wrap it. And I take it, I go over, like that, through, do nice little tie there, tight. See how good that looks? I'll wrap it up a couple more times. 3, same thing. Alright, now let's talk about the fletching. So here's just a regular turkey feather. I haven't split it yet. It's just a turkey feather. Natural. It doesn't really matter what part of the turkey you use, what feather you use. This is how I split them. I take my knife and I run it along the belly. Literally split it in half. You'll see there's a little groove. See a little groove? That goes all along the bottom of the feather. So you can see it when you split it. What it looks like. Pull it apart. What I like to do, you kind of eyeball it. I'm probably gonna do these feathers about this long, Take your scissors. Just snip. Alright, so now you got 2 feathers about the same length. You take it, you want to trim just a little bit. Trimmed it just a hair. We're going to do that on the front and on the back. Here's a big pro tip. Alright, when you're choosing your feather, fletching has to be from the same side of the feather. So if you notice, I use one feather the same side. Again, stretch your arm out. If your sinew will allow, I would split this sinew in half, just because you don't need that thick of sinew. Just figure out where that end is going to be. Put my thumb on it. Alright. And then make a square knot. Alright. And I wrap it. That gives the feather a little traction on the arrow. Now you start wrapping. I like to do that same sort of knot that I did with the arrowhead. That loop knot, that little loop knot that I did. I like doing that on this. Alright, so at this point, this is pretty nice and snug. Pretty nice and snug at this point. So you take it. So you take it and pop. You start working your way up. Working your way up. At the same time, you want to keep the feathers on the shaft of the arrow here. Alright, so you'll notice there's a little bit of you'll notice the feather twirling. That's exactly what you want. You want that feather to twirl. The reason is, when you shoot this arrow, the way that I make my arrows, when you shoot this arrow, okay, I'll show you in a minute, it's gonna spin because of the fletching, because that fletching has a spin to it. So when you get down to this part, you just want to tie it tight. Now it's time to trim up this, because it looks atrocious right now. This is personal preference. Does not matter how you trim this, how far down you trim this. But We just got done with the arrow, folks. This looks nice. Alright, now I'm going to show you the difference between a 3-feather fletching versus my 2-feather spiral fletching. First one you'll see, it doesn't spin. It just literally goes straight in the air and comes back down. My arrows will spin. You'll see it spin. What that does is when you shoot this arrow, that makes sure that this arrow goes straight. If y'all have any questions, just comment down below. If you like this video, comment down below. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe button, and I will see you next time.